are we looking to demolish? And which one will we not be able to demolish as a result?
Well, it's available funds that are required. Just to give you an example, the fire that was once at 81 Elliott Avenue, we were fortunate that the owner took it down. Didn't cost the city any dollars, but that building was close to $500,000 alone just to demolish. So
Yeah.
one fire could be easily 1 or 2 fires a year, God forbid. That money would be exhausting.
Okay, so that's therefore as a level of protection in case of that need. Okay, understood. So there-
Councilwoman, just so you know, there's about $1 million in existing bond money that's already been borrowed. And our first reaction to a fire or to any building emergency is that we go to the owner first. It's their responsibility.
Right.
And if the city does do it because of a safety and health issue, so these are emergency funds when the building department and the fire department have to declare an emergency just to make things safe.
Thank you.
But there is $1 million right now.
Okay, thank you so much for that. Thank you so much, Commissioner.
Thank you.
Now, in the Office of the Aging, I saw a request for passenger vans, and I remember Director Chiarella stating, the increase in the need for delivered meals. So with those vans, was that request possibly to be able to sustain that increase?
Yes, she's not here, I don't think. I didn't see her. So it's my belief, they do have a full fleet, and she did testify to that at her budget hearing right now. She's also very good at reaching out for grants. She gets many grants through the county. But right now, she's fully staffed with the amount of vans that she needs. So she's trying to make sure that she continues in that way.
Okay, got it. And then following to the Parks Department. So I also see Commissioner Sansone in the safety surfacing repair and replacement. There's also a difference. The request was 200, the executive was 50. So which parks were in need of safety resurfacing? That would have included that 200,000?
Well, that was for repairs and replacement. Also, one of the things we wanted to do over time, and they have to be postponed, would be to get rid of basically the chips in the park and start
Okay.
doing over the existing parks. So that's just the dozen or 2 dozen parks that we may have that still have
Does
the
it have
old
chips?
chips. That's what that's for.
Okay. And the request is the same as the executive, but I wanted to know the North Boys and Girls Building.
Yes.
What would that funding do in that property?
Pretty much soup to nuts. I don't want to say there's not a lot right with it. There's electric, plumbing,
Okay,
sheetrock,
Okay.
flooring, roof needs to be repaired, parking
I just
lot.
wasn't sure.
Just about every, yeah, just
I was
about
curious. Okay, thank you.
Sure.
And then the ADA compliance.
Yes.
Also, so I see you requested 270. So how many of our parks are not ADA compliant?
That's actually a facility. It's not for accessibility, it's for ADA compliance of the buildings.
Oh,
And
okay.
we recently completed Spreckman. We do have
That's one of the
funding
parks
in our
department.
budget currently for the administration building, which is a public building that's used for our Parks Board meetings, et cetera. And then we have the other buildings. I think the Chima building would probably be done next. And you have Bronx River Road that there are some issues, and then we'd go to COLA.
Okay,
That's what that would be for.
got it. So are all our playgrounds and parks ADA compliant?
We have gone from a very few percentage of accessible parks to at least, I think, 18. We met with the Disability Advisory Board recently, and they were happy with the direction that we're going in. So all the parks moving forward will be accessible, and we're looking at doing a fully accessible park up at Welty. That's just about for, basketball, for everything. But as far as ramps and things like that and rubber matting, we're in the right direction with the
Okay.
82 parks that we have.
When do you think that would be completed?
Which one?
Fully, you said all our parks being fully ADA compliant.
It's going to take years for us to get in that direction as we renovate the parks.
Okay.
I mean, traditionally, 1 or 2 parks were done a year as far as renovations. And the council is part of really a transformation in our park system. So we've gone from 2 to we have, let's see, we have 5 currently under construction, and we probably are going to get up to 14 or 15 this year. And thanks to the collective work of the engineering with us. There's a lot being done.
Thank you so much, Commissioner. Appreciate your time.
Certainly.
That was Steve
Moving
Sansone
on
of the Parks Department.
to the planning department, I just have one question, and that's the Affordable Housing Ordinance Consulting. And I just don't remember, what that is.
The commissioner's not here, but I think when he testified, to the best of my recollection, they're a consultant that they're
That's
going
to
to
support the
support and help them
compliance.
draw up some of the proposed legislation
Oh.
and guidelines.
Okay, got it. So there's no need for that, those funds anymore, or they're just doing it with less?
I believe that he said that he identified other funds,
Okay.
maybe some of the federal funds that he gets to be able to do that.
Understood.
That's a
And-
priority that we wouldn't let go by the wayside.
Right. Moving to the Department of Public Works, there was also a big difference in what was requested for water system improvements. So can we talk about those improvements?
Councilwoman, Commissioner Meyer is unable to be here today,
Okay.
so he's not feeling well. So I think that we were going to discuss DPW's capital during his budget hearing, if that's
fair.
okay.
Yeah, that's okay. That's absolutely okay. So then, not my last question, but the last department-specific question would be for the Department of Education. And I think you mentioned that earlier. So in the total that is in the proposed from the executive, because I know that the Board of Ed is going to request, a large amount. So I'm not even going to ask for what the difference would make up, because I know that the need is great. But can you break down how much of that 96 is for the Sotomayor School?
None of the 96 is for the Sotomayor School. The Sotomayor School has all been bonded under the
Okay.
Joint School Construction Board. The total is $80 million. That money is already in place, and we remain on budget at this point in the construction of the school. The $30 million that's proposed here is for additional projects, which when the Board of Ed comes, we'll be able to list those projects for you.
I'm sorry, I said 96. I looked at the total, but the 30 million is for what? I'm sorry?
It's for additional projects within the board in the next fiscal year. It has nothing to do with the new construction.
Okay. And should I wait for Board of Ed?
We'll bring you that list when we come with the Board of Ed, so they could speak to their capital program. Their original request was for 86 million.
86, yep. Mhm.
And as Deputy Commissioner Janoka pointed out before, the board is in the process of completing their 5-year assessment, and that will lay out all their projects and their priorities. When they did the last one, it amounted to $2 billion is what they needed to get all of that work done. And that's why the mayor keeps requesting this $100 million block grant to help subsidize, because the city just can't afford, obviously, to borrow $2 billion
Right,
and not get reimbursed for it.
right.
Even our share of it is just too expensive.
Okay. So based on, I guess, the grand total in our capital budget, what is the calculation of debt service based on that amount?
Sure. If we were to bond,
If we were to-
if we were to bond the entire executive budget that's proposed as is, it would be approximately $9.6 million.
I'm sorry?
$9.6 million of
Nine.
debt service
Okay.
if we were to bond the entire capital budget as proposed. But as you know, that, generally does not happen. And everyone in this room, the city council, along with the administration, we weigh in on those ultimate priorities. So the final decision would not be this exact amount. That will be done at a later date. But if you were to do the whole entire budget, it would be 9.6.
9.6.
Some of that there's a lot of factors that go into the debt service. For example, depending upon the probable useful life of each project. Just like, for example, police cars have a short probable useful life, where if we're borrowing money to build a building, that would have a 30-year probable useful life. All of that factors in, and plus the interest rates. So that the 9.6 that we're using is an estimate. But normally, like I said, we used to come in and tell you it's about 700,000. Now, because the interest rates are going up, we're telling you it's closer to $1 million for every 10 million that we borrow.
Okay. And I know that, you mentioned you like us to approve this preliminary capital budget. But I'm just trying to, I guess my concern is, shouldn't we vet the affordability before just approving the capital to make sure that, come 25, which is when that debt service will be, when we will feel that, we're in a place where we can afford that, given that we will have depleted our fund balance and that, those federal funds will no longer be there for us.
Absolutely. And, that's why I hear the pleas of the commissioners behind me and the directors, the director of the museum, the director of the library, the Board of Education. Everybody has such great needs. So it's very difficult to make these decisions as to how we scale back. And we recognize that everything that everybody is saying is legitimate and those needs are valid. But it's a matter of affordability and how much can you ask the taxpayers to pay. So that's why we try and make these tough decisions. And certainly before we go to the bond market, as you all know, we'll be back to you, the council, so that you could set the priorities. You're the policymakers, and we'll follow whatever you tell us to do, and we'll give you the best information we have at hand. You're concerned about next year in 25 and then 26. Is very valid, and we're concerned, as we talk about all the time, about that. You'll also see, if you look at the debt service schedule and the executive budget, that there is a drop-off in debt service in 2027. So we also try and plan, as Council President pointed out, there's a multi-year plan for capital, and you pointed that out as well when we talked about revenues, that we are trying to look ahead and try and anticipate what those costs are going to be.
Thank you, Commissioner, because that's just a big concern.
Yeah, but if in 2025, they're now back and they're bonding more money, they're putting the city into more debt, then in 2027, that won't be the same. That won't be the case. See, he's not telling you that. So essentially what's happening here is they're looking to kick the can down the road, pass the debt on. That's what they're doing here. And this New York State Comptroller has stated that in their report. The city of Yonkers has to stop pushing debt down the line, by borrowing more, increasing its costs with one-shot deals. And that's what they're trying to do here. But he tries to say, well, in 2027, you'll see that our debt, obligation will be lowered, but not if they get into more debt in 2025 and 2026.
About how do we get through those years and the affordability and the burden that, we put on the Yonkers taxpayer.
Absolutely.
Well, thank you so much. Appreciate your time. Thank you, Madam Council President.
Thank you. Okay, it's almost 5 p.m. Just being mindful of the time with the amount of questions that each council person asks.
Wow.
Next, we will.
Which truck is that? What's the truck?
So the truck that will be replaced for consumer protection is a 2001 pickup.
A pickup.
Yep, from 2001.
Sometimes they have scales and there's stuff that they have to transport on that pickup truck.
Thank you. Okay, thank you very much. So we went to the easy part
Consumer
first.
shakedown protection.
So the other part, as far as breakdown is concerned, and I don't think I have to ask the commissioner, I think through Rami should probably. So we got $2 million that were, again, you try to balance out between the police and the fire department, what you want to do, but you only get one fire truck for maybe 4 police vehicles. So, but what were you thinking as far as the $2 million? I don't know whether we have to ask the commissioner. How many vehicles are we getting for $2 million and what's the breakdown? The police department. We'll start with the police.
They got these new Mustangs and they actually spent about $40,000 more to get the upgraded model. Why? You got to see these things. They got like the GT models. I saw one and I took pictures of it the other day. It costs about 40,000 more.
Yeah, well, with the $2 million that have been on the executive, what are you planning to buy? Which vehicles are you buying?
Police will make you.
How many, and what's the breakdown? You know, is it Explorers, are they Teslas, are they,
The all electric
I don't know.
Mustangs, the GTs, the
Councilman,
$40,000
what we
extra
plan on
models.
doing with a request of, $2 million now. So essentially, we're 2 years behind because of all these vehicles that haven't been produced since the whole COVID incident. We have no new marked patrol vehicles since 2021. In 2021, we got 8.
Your marked patrol vehicles are usually Ford Explorers.
Yes. So in essence, we're 2 years behind. Once we get these 64 vehicles delivered, that will replenish our fleet, our first line fleet. However, then as someone mentioned before, there's really a useful life, about 5 years from my patrol vehicle. After that, maintenance becomes very expensive. We would like to purchase 15 marked patrol vehicles, Ford Explorer hybrids, where we've been purchasing those, possibly 2 marked electric vehicles to try that as a initiative, and then some unmarked vehicles to replenish the fleet because our unmarked vehicles are terribly old. We have probably upwards of 60 that are 10 to 12 years and older.
What vehicles is the vehicle of choice for unmarked vehicles?
Right now, depending, the options of sedans are way down, so Toyota Camrys, Ford Escapes, if they're made, other ones, anything comparable to that. A smaller crossover vehicle is really what we're looking towards now. There aren't many sedans to speak of, and especially if we're mandated to buy something hybrid, plug-in, or electric, we're limited to what we can buy, and the costs have gone way up.
So for $2 million, you think you can get 17 vehicles?
17 vehicles, yes. In there, if 15 marked patrol vehicals, an unmarked, a marked van.
Van too?
A van for the jail. Out of the 3, 2 of them are quite old. A marked van to use for our NST unit. Our NST unit transports a lot of the newer and rookie cops that go to areas of choice. They don't.
So the NST, the Neighborhood Stabilization Team, upon graduating from the academy, what we do is we take anywhere from 9 to 12 police officers, and they're out there in the community immediately. Anytime there's a shooting, anytime there's a trouble area, every time there's a quality of life issue, we deploy them. Being that they're new, being that they don't have real assignments yet, we don't give them each a car. It would be too cost prohibitive. So we basically just load them up in a van and take them to where the problem is, and they're on foot or, in Getty Square or wherever we send them until someone comes and gets them. So it's very important that we keep them mobile and we're able to move them around as necessary.
Okay, well, I'm just curious, what the police expect for the bang for the buck that you guys expect for $2 million. So I do appreciate the breakdown. That's, I think I had one other question here. No, that's not you talked about there was a structural work that has to be done at the first precinct and the fourth. No, that's good. I'm good with the police. Thank you very much, Commissioner. Thank you. Commissioner
police department has got some new electric
I guess I'm going to be a little
Mustangs.
bit repetitive with what Councilman Rubo said. So I believe you originally said that you wanted to purchase the 3.9 million was for two additional trucks?
No, that would have been 3 with the 3.9 million.
It would be
So-
3. It would be 3.
Right.
Okay, but you said the cost that you said now is it's $1.8 million for, that's it, it went up from 1.4 to 1.8?
1.8 is for a new tower ladder.
Oh, a tower.
A tower ladder. And engines and trucks went up substantially also. So again, we asked for 3 pieces of equipment and we could get 1 piece of a tower ladder. If we chose not to get the tower ladder, which is a priority, we could probably get maybe two engines out of the 2.7 million.
Out of 2.7, okay.
But right now, the priority for us would be the tower ladders.
Tower ladders. So my, one of the things that you've mentioned in the past, so we're currently approving very large buildings these days, 30, 40-story buildings.
Right, there you go.
Obviously, your tower ladders or these ladders, that's, maybe I'm saying the wrong thing, to get to these fires are only capable of doing so much. With all these big buildings, do you require any other additional equipment to handle these larger buildings?
Those larger buildings are fought with more manpower. That's what would be required when you start building something, 25 to 40 stories high. And as
More
those
firefighters.
seekers come in, we will address that and increase the manpower. Obviously, we have to get larger pumps to pump the water up higher if that's the case. But 95% of those buildings are fought with more manpower.
More manpower. Okay, so obviously there's no extra special, there's no special fire apparatus that's used for high-rise apartments that, like this, just a pump tower, just pump
Not that
tower.
would be built in this city.
Yeah.
The highest we can go with an aerial ladder is 110 feet, 85, so 8 stories from the ladder, where the ladder starts. So, no, there's not equipment that you can get that can go 10, 12, 15, 18, 25, or 40 stories high.
Yeah, well, I was just curious about the other stuff that you, yes, that stuff fighting it from the roof almost, and work your way down on certain issues. So you got to get men up on the top of the place. And that's right. I just wasn't sure. I mean, I gotta, you watch all this good stuff, and I just want to
I
make
would
sure.
hope that somebody does come along with a piece of apparatus that you can fight from the roof down, but at this point, the only way we would come from the roof down is to rescue out of a window or, rope rescues and stuff like that. To get equipment from the roof to a 40-story building, 10 stories high would virtually be impossible. We would have to literally carry that up the flight of stairs, and that's what takes more manpower. We got to, the most important thing about fighting high-rise fires is that a lot of it is smoke rather than the fire itself. But the smoke rises and people get trapped on the upper floors, and you've seen what happened downtown when 19 people died. Basically, it was all from smoke inhalation, and takes manpower to get up there and get them out, or to get up high enough to put the fire out.
Okay, thank you, Commissioner. I appreciate that.
And what about these developments that are being built mostly with wood? I would have wanted
If
to
I
ask
may
him that
ask
question.
Parks Commissioner Sansone, please.
And also, why doesn't the city council members go out and inspect the vehicles? They should do an inventory themselves of all the vehicles and see exactly what the city has.
Commissioner, how much, for the past couple of years, well, there's two different questions. So we have 2 line items regarding general
Why didn't he
park
ask the question?
improvements. One of them included the waterfront park on a previous line items. So I don't know how much of those previous line items for general park improvements was for the waterfront park, if there was anything in that waterfront park for those lines. But then, because the waterfront park that was actually bonded last year. So my question really is, how much at this point are you holding for what was bonded the last couple of years?
Well, in general park improvements, there's, I think, about 1.3 million that's left. And if you take the 850, probably at the end of the week out of Schultz, we are moving the money. We did hear what you all said at the last meeting, it's just a matter of moving the money. So as far as general park improvements, we'll probably be down to about 500,000 or 600,000 out of the approximately 7 million in the next week or so. So fortunately, things are moving along.
So
what does that mean?
So right now,
What's being done?
Right now, there's 1.38 that's left.
That's all that's left for now, until we bond the next about.
No, that's from fiscal year 22.
Oh, for 22.
Fiscal year 22. Now, we got the new bonding at the beginning of the year, and out of the possible, un momento, let me see.
Did you say un momento?
Nope, 5.775.
Right.
We have 3.725. I can assure you that we have now out to bid, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. We have, I would say, 8 items, and includes Murray's.
Right.
And that'll be, it's out to bid, so that's being spent. And we're also going out this Friday to do site visits on an additional 9 parks, and they'll be designed. So,
So you've got about, $4 and change, almost $5 million left over from the 2 bondings to keep you busy through the rest of this fiscal year. Well, I mean, through the year, actually calendar year, because you're not going to get any more bonding money until December?
that's correct. That's why we're going out. We're getting ahead of it. We're going out for design on the 9 parks, and then hopefully in fiscal year '24, that'll be hopefully funded.
How much can you spend in a year? I mean, that's another story. I mean,
Well, again, as I said before, we were usually doing 1 or 2 parks, and with the collective work of engineering and our design companies that are working with us, we are kind of committed. We realize that we're getting this money, and the parks are in dire, some of them are in need, and we want to make sure that we can move it along. But we are
Yeah,
working.
man, taking that
I
money
know.
with
Well,
that fund.
I absolutely know you're working. You're always, there's always some park
lot of
investment
bad things
happening.
happening
I
there,
appreciate
you know
everything
it.
that you do to keep the parks looking and working properly so that people can enjoy themselves. So thank you very much. And that's all I really was curious at that point.
has the
My next question
contracts?
is going to be for the commissioner. Thank you, Steve.
Who's getting these
So, Commissioner,
contracts?
I ask you this question periodically. I'll ask you again now in public with, so the federal government touts their infrastructure bill, okay? Do we have any infrastructure money from that infrastructure bill coming to the city of Yonkers? And if not, how come, why not?
That's a very good question.
Yeah.
We have not, and we have reached out to our federal and to our state delegations to ask them where that infrastructure money is. It's my understanding that most of that money is going to come through the county, but we have not seen any yet.
So I have no idea what we're going to get and what we're going to
Yeah.
fix with that money at this point.
Correct.
Because isn't that like, you have to have like shovel-ready jobs ready for them to go or something?
Right. And as you know, they're focusing on the big issues like the tunnel in New York City and things of that nature. But we haven't seen anything, and we've been lobbying and trying to get our delegations to find out as much as they can about it.
Well, it's, okay, well, thank you very much. So the other thing that, in general, is I know that recently, I think Mount Vernon got some money from the state to do some infrastructure work. I don't know, $15 million, $13 million, I'm not exactly sure what the number is. What did we do wrong and what did they do right? That, because we could, Paul Summerfield would jump on that opportunity to have $13 million for some infrastructure work. I don't understand why they received it and we don't. Is there any reason why we don't get that money?
I'd ask the same question. One of the things I think that, and Paul touched upon it earlier when he was speaking, I think one of the things that we need to be very proud of is the amount of money that we have invested in our, combined in our storm sewers to clean up the Bronx River and the Sawmill River. And every year you give about $2 to $3 million to improve our sanitary and storm sewer systems. Why the state chose to give Mount Vernon money and not us? I think they gave them $150 million. It was a huge amount of money. We've invested considerably.
I know where they got the money from. They got the money from us because of that. We'll talk about that same. Do we want to talk about that same story every year about? I know my little thing, 500 million going up, 400 million coming down. Where's the rest of the money going?
But I think, you as a city council and the administration should be very proud of the amount of money that we've invested to clean up those rivers and the infrastructure.
How much is it?
That contributed to some of the issues that were there. We have a long way to go, and we continue to invest, as we say, an affordable amount, $2 to $3 million a year, depending on how much work we can get done. But certainly, we would look forward to the federal government and the state giving us some kind of support in this kind of.
Well, as I said, I know this is my sixth budget, and everyone that's been on here with me, this council has not kicked the can down the road. We've done a lot between fire engines and parks, police vehicles,
Board of Education.
infrastructure, and all the infrastructure, trees, street resurfacing. Of course, we're going to have to get that changed to $4 million again also, at least, because you can't buy very much with $250,000. So, and again, I'm going to keep harping, and I'm going to say it, that we also are not, even though this is not is a capital budget meeting, without the AIM money coming in to give us some extra money there to free us up to throw some money on the side from the operating side to reduce what we have to borrow. It's a shame that we're stuck at that same $108 million, but I feel it's important that we have to mention that every time we can, so that our state delegation and our governor will wake up and smell the coffee that we've earned that money, and we deserve it, and we should be barking real loud. The squeaky wheel gets the grease, and we should be squeaking real loud. So
you're preaching to the choir, Councilman. We're on total agreement with you on that. We are up in Albany every year asking for the same kind of consideration that other municipalities within our state get. I agree with what you said. The city council and the mayor and the administration has put a great effort into capital construction over the last 12 years. And we have taken advantage of these historically low interest rates. And we have borrowed the maximum amount that was affordable to the citizens. We've also refunded any of the bonds that had higher interest rates that were available that were callable and that we could. So we have tried to leverage that money and get the most out of it that we could to the taxpayers' advantage, as well as to provide the most services that we can. And as you all know, a big part of the problem is underground. As I mentioned before, our water system and our sewer system are aging. In this part of town is 150 years old. A lot of them are old brick sewers. So, it's a constant battle to try and maintain and keep this system going.
And you're adding a lot more.
And Councilwoman Pineda-Isaac before mentioned, is it something that we're going to ever get to a point where we could say, all the roads are paved and we feel good and we're not going to hit a pothole? It's the same thing with what's under the roads. We have to constantly maintain that and worry about being able to deliver the water, provide the sewer. It's a challenge of an old city in the northeast part of the country.
even if we allocated $200 million, we couldn't pave all the streets at this particular time. But I thank you for what you guys do with your bond people to do the best you can, and God only knows that what's going to happen by the time we get to the bond market in December. So let's hope it slows down a bit. But thank you for what you guys do, and thank you for all the commissioners and everybody that came out here today to meet with us. And we're going to do the best to get as much as we can for you, because we know that you're not just taking this money and blowing it anywhere particular part. It's stuff that we're catching up so that you guys can have do the best service to our people. So thank you very much for everybody that's here. Thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. It's actually 5:15.
So they're talking about
which is the
bonding
time
more.
scheduled to conclude, and we have another meeting scheduled in this room in 15 minutes. So do we have any brief questions from the council before we wrap? Okay. The questions I had were preliminarily for the planning and the Board of Ed, and we know DPW, as you mentioned, the commissioner is under the weather, so he will do his capital budget next week when their hearing is scheduled, and the Board of Ed will do theirs at their scheduled time. The next hearings are scheduled for tomorrow. We have finance at 2 p.m. and general revenues at 3:30, scheduled for tomorrow. And that's it for this week. If there are no other questions or comments, we will hereby close this meeting.
Thank you.
All right, Lakeisha.
Thank
and
you all
Vinny,
for
thank you
coming
too.
and being here and for all the hard work you do.
So they're talking about more bonding, more putting the city into debt by issuing bonds. Moranti was trying to, be a bit, do his due diligence, I should say. He really was trying to question certain things, but I don't think you're firm enough, Moranti. And I expect more from you because you are the Mr. Tax Help, right? Or is that Texas Help? Which one is it? Right? Is it Texas Help? I expect you more because you know the budget. You're an accountant. You understand this stuff, and there's things there that you should be frustrated with, right? And you shouldn't be thanking individuals who can't do their job efficiently and thoroughly. You're right. And they see that, you see that Lakeisha didn't like the fact that they were, it's going to be 5 o'clock, the questions. We need to know this stuff. I don't care if we go into 7 o'clock. All right. We have to ask these questions. Corazon Pineda Isaac, the other council person that's running for mayor, was also asking tough questions. And that comment by Lakeisha Collins Bellamy was made after Corazon had finished her questioning, which I thought it was a bit rude, Lakeisha, because it's important. We must know. If we have to be there till 7, I don't care. Then you guys don't do the job, right? But we need to know. They need to ask more questions. So that, you guys can play it over. 80 million was bonded for the Sotomayor School. They're asking for 30 million more, or did I get that right? Mayor requesting, 100 million block grant. They went to the different departments. The police, that's what I want to talk about, really. The police department got these new Mustangs, the all-electric ones, and I saw one yesterday, actually. I wish I put the picture up, but I haven't loaded up yet. And I'm hearing from sources that the models that they got cost about $30,000 to $40,000 more, which they didn't need to get. And it's nice. I saw it. You can definitely tell that it's an upgraded model. The rims are nicer. It's got a wider body kit. It's got the ground effects. I mean, it's dope. It's the GT model, But did they really need that? What is that car being used for? I see, what's his name? We've talked about him in the podcast, Anthony and others. The chief guy. I forget your name, but we've shown his picture up. He was in the picture with the guys over at Yankee Stadium and stuff. He's in there. He's the one driving that Mustang all around Yonkers. And it's a beautiful car. It just doesn't seem like it should be a police car. I mean, it's expensive also. And so they're saying that they need $2 million for another 17 vehicles. And he's saying that the police vehicles are old. I mean, a lot of those Ford Explorers look new. I mean, the police are driving nicer cars than a lot of city residents. I don't understand that. And you need another $2 million. I'm not trying to knock the police. I'm just saying, do we need them? Firemen say they need 3 new trucks, 3.9 mil. They 1.8 million just for a new tower ladder. And Moranti asked a question about, the type of equipment that they would need to fight fires in these high rises now. And I love the fact that these guys are all talking about shit that I be bringing up that I had mentioned. And I've been, like this news article coming out and low HUD and all this nepotism and the corruption and the type of equipment you're going to need to fight all these tall towers and the sewer and the infrastructure issues that we have here in the city of Yonkers, the aging sewer and water system that's producing brown water for many residents here in the city of Yonkers. That's right. Don't drink the tap water here. It's coming out brown for many people. And so they're adding more strain by building these developments. And then also, as the fire commissioner said, it's manpower. Manpower. And by the way, Tasha Diaz, you used manpower in the wrong context, okay? All right? Manpower. When talking about a man, that's why the word man is before power. Manpower. Okay. She was referring to something that I forgot exactly what it was, but she said, maybe does it have enough manpower? And I'm like, it's not how you would use that. And I forgot. I'll get into it, but I'll talk about it later. I thought it was funny. But anyway, so the fire chief commissioner said we need more manpower. That's how we fight fires. Look, we've seen that in 9/11, right? You've seen, the firemen that went up into the towers there that came down. That's very dangerous. That's very dangerous. And we're going to be having our own twin towers, by the way, right? We're going to have them maybe on Woodworth if the city council, goes through with it, the developers have their way. There'll be 2 32-story towers on Woodward. So that'll be our Twin Towers, right? And we saw what happened in 9/11. Right? Do we really want that attention? Do we want all this here in the city of Yonkers? Many of us lived in Yonkers because it wasn't the city. Somebody that actually training with me and you guys said, he's from the Bronx. He says, Yonkers is just like the Bronx, except it's nicer, cleaner. But it's just like the Bronx. It has all these little stores and this thing, that, and the third. And he's pointing out all the things that they just started popping up here in the city. So yeah, we're becoming Bronkers, right? So we're actually the official 6th borough. So, folks, they don't manage money right. They keep bonding. And what Moranti said at the end there, you're kicking the can down the line. This is what I've talked about before. I've gone over the New York State Comptroller's report. I've talked about all the overtime, the promotions, the exorbitant, the high salaries, right? We can't really afford that. We cannot. That is why basically bonding is going to the bank and borrowing money. That's what the city's doing. Say, hey, I need a loan. Hey, I need a loan. Hey, I need a loan. And they keep kicking it down because when we get all this money from the city, and Ray Moranti asked about that, he said, hey, what happened to the infrastructure bill money? Where's that? They hired more people. They gave people promotions. They added fixed cost for, one-shot deals, right? Non-recurring revenue. They added recurring expenses. And you're not supposed to do that. Now, how are you going to pay for the following years, right? And so now they have to bond to pay for other stuff because it comes out of the general fund. So to do all these other projects, you got to bond. So we keep putting ourselves into debt and just passing it down the line. And they try to play with the words. And they say, oh, but you see, by 2027, our debt obligation will be down. Well, what if we, in 2025 and 2026, or even next year in 2024, issue more bonds for something else and just put the city into more debt, right? So it's all about money management. I want to know where all that money's going that they got for the Parks Department, that $7 million. Whose pocket did they put that into? I'm Freddie Vasquez. Just the budget meetings. Those meetings are important, folks. You got to watch. You got to know where the money's going. You got to see their tricks. There go John. See their tricks. See their tricks. They play games.
Freddie wins.
By the way, I don't know what is that podcast got a lot of views, I guess. I don't know, maybe not. There's something in particular that people want to see on there. Something specific information that I gave. I wonder what that is. What's going on here?